back here. Oh, days, my friends. Today's passage is one of those passages that I didn't really know until I started taking church really seriously. Growing up, I grew up in a church, and I grew up in a Methodist church, and I didn't know what Pentecost was. Even after confirmation, there just wasn't a part of it. This whole tongues of fire, of mighty winds, what? And everybody speaking in other languages. Isn't that a different kind of church? All of it seemed rather confusing to me. So when I approach this passage, the things that kind of jump up right away. First, if you all were hanging on my every word, i.e. last Easter, my sermon, one of the things I talked about is how the resurrection of Jesus, and in particular the Gospel of John and a lot of Luke, they want you to believe and know, to understand Jesus' resurrection as a new creation. You've heard that language? New creation. I mean, they name churches like that because and if it's a new creation, what's with the old creation? You can pour into these texts and see highlights of the Genesis 1 and 2 over and over again. And it shows up again in the book of Acts. Here are these disciples in this upper room kind of caught, and a wind of God. Wind. The Hebrew word is ruach. Some pastors make you repeat back. I made you do Veni Sancte Spiritus. I'm not going to make you do ruach because we don't have enough napkins for the person in front of you. It's ruach, breath. It's this animating force in your lungs. Oh, okay, I'll do it. In the Gospel of John, when Jesus is resurrected, he shows up. The resurrected Jesus shows up and the disciples says, "Peace, look at my hands, look at my feet, look at my side." You see the holes. And then it says that he breathed on them. Jesus has been dead for 3 days. I really hope he brushed his teeth before he breathed on them. Because what does that smell like? Well, it's not about the smell, it's about creation. The fact that in Genesis, the breath of God breathed into us to make us a living spirit. Here in Acts 2, the breath shows up again. This time, animating the church to become an empowered church. That's one really great metaphor. You can also jump further into Genesis. One of the stories, this is not talked about a lot anymore, but was definitely part of my Sunday school upbringing. Y'all remember the Tower of Babel? Fun fact about that, it's the first time bricks are ever mentioned. Because what it said, let us make bricks to make a city. What's a brick? Never mind that, we're making a city. We're going to make a city with them. And the whole story is kind of like the height of arrogance of we are going to get up and we are going to find God. It's going to be tall enough that we get to be God. We are unified with this. And what does God do? God scatters us. It's kind of a myth about how all the different cultures and colors and languages of the people gets invented by God. Here is kind of a reverse, a flipping on its head, where we are all united. While there is difference amongst us, Parthians, Medians, those from Cappadocia and Cyrene, everyone is hearing the gospel in their language. It's a unifying moment. And it kind of gets talked about as since it's Acts chapter 2, there's a couple of human elements that really get missed. Because the human element in miracles frequently get missed. One, think of this radical change of Peter. Peter was a fisherman, like his father before him. And that father before that father, this is a guy who should have been confined to nothing in the pages of history. And in fact, not only it's not like just this one encounter with Jesus changes him. He spends 3 years with Jesus, seeing all the miracles of Jesus. And in the hour of Jesus' most desperate need, fails. He can't even say, I know. When Jesus is arrested, they accuse him, aren't you one of his followers? Your Galilean accent betrays you. We know you. And Peter, before the cock crows 3 times, is like, no, I don't know him. What a coward. And this coward that happens on Good Friday, Maundy, Thursday, a few chapters later, here in Acts chapter 2, is standing in the center of Jerusalem, giving a sermon. And I didn't read all the verses. It's not exactly a nice one. This isn't the pleasant stories about his kids where everybody smiles at him. This is the, you've done stuff wrong. We need to change. We need to be a better people. And it's through him that we are saved. And yes, I'll tell my favorite joke. This is like, Peter gets called Catholic because he's the first pope, right? Upon which I will build my church. That's, I don't think Peter was Catholic. I think Peter is Methodist. Peter had to be Methodist because he starts off this sermon, right? Everyone's like, all these people are speaking in all these other languages. It's new wine. And Peter starts off with, these men are not drunk as you suppose, for it is only 9:00 in the morning. See, that's why he's Methodist. Because clearly he's never been to a football game. Like, only the old school Methodists aren't drinking at 9 a.m. Like, there's tailgate parties, the best ones. So, there's this radical change of Peter, but that's one of the human sides of this. And then the other side of it, the thing that I have never commented on, the thing that has become more and more of a miracle to me, isn't the wind of God coming down from heaven. The miracle of God that's striking me now isn't the wind of God coming down from heaven. It's not the fiery tongues. It's not even the foreign languages. It's not even change for Peter right now. The thing that's changed me is people listened. There is a speaker, and there is a mutual, there's an openness of the listening. And I can't help but feel awed by this, because in today's day, to be someone who speaks with any kind of an authority, the power of listening has gotten lost. Because it requires a control, a sense of it's okay. I think it starts with what Peter has and what we pray Mabel's got, what she receives in this baptism, what you all should have received in your baptism. An acknowledgement that before you have the ability to do anything, before you can accomplish anything, before you can screw anything up, there is a voice that claims you as loved, enough, and worthy. This is the most important voice in your life, and it comes to you free of charge, without asking anything from you. This is the promise of baptism, and this promise frees you to not only face the days ahead of you. I'm talking to my graduates. You can face the days ahead of you with courage because you know who you are, grounded in this love. Even when the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune come to measure you, God already has and has declared you enough. So yes, listen to yourself. Listen to that inner call that God has put on you. I'm also curious about listening to others. If I've spoken on this a few times, I want to become a better listener. And so I like to give ideas about how to get better at listening, like be an active listener, ask questions, wait to tell stories. When you listen to somebody, let them speak. Let them finish before you start figuring out what you're going to say in response. Because at some point, you're going to start to think of something to respond and get it as far as you can to the end. But what I've been thinking about this week is When you have people around you speaking and listening in conversation about how to live, how to share space, is some of the most valuable energy you will ever spend. At some point, when you have a partner in your life who is living in your space, you have to have conversations about things you thought you didn't have to have conversations about. I, for the longest time, did not have an opinion about which way the toilet roll goes. For some people, it's around the front. For others, it's around the back. I am of the third option. What? Until this. I'll admit, she won me over. She goes, beards are cooler than mullets. And now it's all I think about anytime I change it. Winning. The number of conversations that Bethany and I had to have about how to live, how to share, like, what was a one-person job? And if you don't have a conversation about what are one-person jobs, when you have roommates, this is something you're going to need to know. What's a one-person job and what's a we job, right? Maybe it was because I was single long enough that I was like, dishes, one-person job. Oh, no. Making the bed, one-person job. Oh, no. Trash. I always thought that was a one-person job, or I thought that was a two-person job. The person who takes out the trash doesn't need to replace the bag because they're doing the hard part. You can do the easy part by replacing the bag. And everybody here is like doing the same thing, like looking at your partner or whatnot. But and the thing is either is right. Like this is not the gospel of one person takes out the trash and replaces the bag. It's about the conversation. Shoes in the house. Do you walk around wearing stocking feet or do you have like slippers? Can you wear the outside shoes indoors? These are all kinds of, like, if you don't say it, if you don't have the conversation, and then, okay, so this is kind of the introductory. One thing that's really hard the longer you're with somebody, and this isn't just for married couples, this can be for work life, church life, the longer you're with them, the more you can be so used to it. I'm at the point now with Bethany that we can finish each other's sandwiches. We can finish each other's sandwiches. No, we can finish each other's sentences pretty quickly. And I can see how after a few more years, eventually I can have the argument with her just in my head. She doesn't even need to speak to me. In fact, I'll just have that argument and just let it go. Shouldn't let that go on too much. That kind of resentment that can build with the conversation in your head, the point of Pentecost is that someone is speaking and someone is hearing. And you got to let words do their work and you got to let actions do the work. But you got to be open to that work. So you've been around the block. You've got some experience. You're a parent, a grandparent, and a great-grandparent, and you've got graduates, confirmation kids, a baptized kid. You got somebody new in your life. Whatever for you, for those of you, listening is more important than any words that you're going to be able to say. Creating, if they dare to ask you for advice or ask you for a word, your presence in their life is more important than the words that are going to come out of your mouth. I bring this word when I was a brand new parent. My eldest was very hard. And I had a lot of people in my life, a lot of parents, a lot of grandparents, and the first thing they'd want to say is, oh, you're going to be fine. They're meant well. They're trying to be comforting. I'm scared to graduate from high school, or I'm scared to go into college. I'm scared of the workforce. Oh, you're going to be just fine. We believe in you and we trust you. That is probably true. Hold on to it for a second. Join them in the pain. Because what I heard when I said I'm sleeping an hour and a half max a night, and this is killing me, and someone told me, oh, you're going to be just fine. You're dismissing how exhausted I am. You might be dismissing how scared someone is really feeling. You just join a minute. Let it sit. Trying to be a better listener. And then, when it's all said and done with, hey, it's going to get better. I'm at the point now, like we're kind of getting into the groove. All my kids are in school. We're past the really young stuff, and it's actually really sweet when one of them wants to cuddle in the morning or in the middle of the night. It's just like kind of an odd moment, and I love it. The thing that I've had to have the conversation with, people who are just older than me, I got a buddy and his wife, their kids are just starting to drive. And I'm like, I can't imagine. They were standing in front of me. I'm like, how's it going? And he looks me dead in the eye, horrifying. She doesn't miss a beat. She goes, absolutely terrifying. And then they looked at each other and they go, worth it. Which I felt was the whole moniker of parenthood. Like that is the motto of parenthood, like terrifying, absolutely horrifying, and worth it, right? I was like, to be able to have another driver in the house, worth it. Okay. Something I get to look forward to. Oh my gosh. The longer I'm in ministry, the more I'm convinced that the most important moments of life are not made by the words we choose. The most important moments of our lives are when we show up and linger long enough that we can truly hear. Pentecost, being remembered as the day the church finds its voice, is great. But I want to tell you that the real miracle is not just that the church listened to the Spirit, but that people listen to each other. Because what good is speaking if no one is listening? What good is love if it never pauses long enough to understand? To all my graduates here and online, you're heading into a world that is loud, that algorithms are designed to keep you angry, commenters are paid to keep you afraid, and entire industries are built on convincing you that certainty is the same thing as wisdom. It isn't. Wisdom is so much more quiet and unassuming. It sounds like curiosity or compassion. It sounds like asking more questions instead of coming down with a judgment. The Spirit didn't descend upon the disciples so that they could win an argument. The Spirit descended upon them so that strangers might become neighbors. And not just Mabel, but to all who pass through the waters of baptism, God's declaration that before you achieve, before you can impress, before you have your life figured out, you are beloved. That voice matters most, has already spoken over you. The truth is that every person you meet is carrying their own story, one that you probably can't see. Every person is fighting battles that do not make it into the first conversation or any social media post. We are, all of us, far more complicated than we appear. And one of the holiest things one of the holiest things we can do is to refuse to reduce someone to an assumption. The holiest thing you can do for someone new is to listen to them. So perhaps the miracle of Pentecost is not trapped back then in Acts chapter 2. Perhaps it happens every time a spouse finally hears what their partner is trying to say. Every time we put down our phones and return to engage in the conversation. Every time the church decides that being right is less important than being loving. The Spirit is moving, my friends. The miracle is still available. The question is whether or not we're listening. Amen.